What's up, everyone? Welcome to Fools Get Clean 2 podcast, where we give hope to the hopeless, people struggling with addiction, street life, or getting incarcerated. Today, we have a special guest named Herbert G Calderon. He's going to tell a story, and it's a pretty good one. So, how was it growing up for you, Herbert? So, how was your childhood like? Where did you grow up at?
I grew up in Santana. I'm from Santana. Growing up for me was actually pretty, as I remember it, it was very wonderful and loving. I had a loving mother. I come from a single household, single mother household. I have one sister that's like almost 20 years older than me, so I had, in a sense, like two moms. She still is like a little bit of a parent to me, right? Like the whole parental dynamic, a little bit hard to shake it off, but we're working on it, as far as like the sibling dynamic and making it healthier and things like that. But when I was growing up, like it was definitely an experience. I've actually brushed elbows with a lot of like individuals that I grew up with. A lot of things that I used to play a lot. That was one of the things. I was able to play, kind of being able to hang out. Christmas I didn't get too many gifts, but the ones I did get were like wonderful. You know what I'm saying? There were like things that I wrote down top two. So definitely, that puts a smile on my face and it makes me remember like my childhood, like being very, very good.
Did you have both your parents growing up?
So I did not. I never met my father. So I don't really know what he looks like, what he is like, or where he's at. But yeah, like I said, I come from a single mother household, and my childhood was great. I went to Garfield Elementary.
Okay.
That's where I went. Junior high, I went to Villa. I was supposed to go to Sierra, and back in the days, they used to do this raffle, for Villa Fundamental, where your parents or whoever would sleep overnight, get a number, and then eventually, if they were lucky, they'll get a spot. And I ended up getting a spot at Villa Fundamental. So,
Oh yeah. So moving forward a little bit, so how was like elementary, junior high for you? Did you get any trouble back then, or?
So yeah, no, right. Elementary was mostly like fights just because of soccer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
I used to play soccer during recess and things like that, or lunch, and yeah, somebody will slide me a certain way, and then you see it in the soccer games too, where fools get so I would imitate that and things like that. And junior high was a lot different though. In junior high, like I remember my first day of junior high, like I was like, where are the swings at? Because there was no swings. So that was like another concern. And then walking a further distance, walking I used to live on Mortimer at that time, so I had to maybe walk like a good like 3 miles. Sometimes I would take the bus. Sometimes we used to just take all the way down first and then end up by the DMV and then eventually go, because that's where V is at. Um, Things like that. I'd walk either with a couple homies from the neighborhood. Either with my neighbor. Things like that. People who went that way early in the mornings, but um, I feel like sixth grade was difficult, because my name's Herbert, so I experienced a lot of like bullying where it was like, oh, Herbert the perv, Herbert the pervert, and then just little things like that, that were different, right? Instead of like in elementary, nobody's really clowning in
you would try to roast, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah, and I started roasting back and things like that, and that, I think that's where like the negative like mindset kind of comes in, right? Where it's like
so you become started impacting.
Oh yeah, you become distrustful, right? Of like, oh, especially because like I had a couple friends that were like in my inner circles, and then behind my back they'll tell another friend like, oh yeah, perv, right? It's like, what? Like, so you kind of get into like you get in your feels, right? You don't know how to manage your emotions, but and then I got into a multitude amount of fights, especially like in like junior high was like the where you're trying to make a name for yourself, right? You're trying to make a name for yourself, and just because it's overcasted by this like connotation, right? Like, oh, Herbert the perv, girls don't really come around, girls feel some type of way. So yeah, for me that was a little difficult because I feel like I'm not attractive, right? I feel like I'm not handsome, right? So they're just different things, I think for me, like the main change,
affecting your self-esteem.
Yeah, oh yeah, of course, yeah, and then aside from that, just like the whole dilemma in drama at school, I also had drama in the household. I it's like the video I shared, right? Like when I was like 11, my sister, decided to married this dude or whatever, and this dude was like, he was just toxic, you know what I'm saying? Very violent, controlling. He always wanted things his way, wanted to basically put, his rule under everything, you know what I'm saying? Like, even the way that I would wake up, it's like, you gotta wake up at this time, and it's like, fuck no, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just because he wanted to do certain things, and it was a lot, and I didn't know how to manage those emotions. I started feeling like a little bit of like how do I say, like that unworthiness, right? Where you don't feel like you have that self-worth, where it's like, what's really going on in my life? Like, I'm not comfortable in my household, I'm not comfortable at school. Like, where's my middle ground, right? To feel like that sense of like relax, or like that happiness, right? That I kind of spoke about when I was like a child, where I have no worries, right? Everything's gravy, everything's good, and all of a sudden I'm experiencing all these things that I just don't know how to cope with, so yeah, eventually, like the time frame, when I was like 13 is when everything started, um drinking. I tasted alcohol for the first time when I was 13. I wrote about it too. It was like a shot.
Where was this at, or was it at a
So
party?
this was like this was the last day when I was an eighth grader.
Okay,
yeah. So
celebration.
yeah, we thought we were like cool. Wanted to celebrate, go to the homie's girlfriend's house, and take a couple drinks and a shot. And took a shot, and I felt cool. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody was doing it. So you get that kind of like fake bonding. That's like, oh shit, like I'm light, right? I'm cool.
Did it give you that beer balls that
I mean, yes and no, right? I think what happened to me, like the process at that time, was like I had no worries. I found that euphoric kind of stage, right, where it's like, oh shit, I'm cool. I'm ditching. It's the last day of school. We already walked, graduated, whatever. Like, life is good, right? For once, right? So that was like like that self denial that everybody talks about, right? Like, you don't see like everything that's happening. You just see like the good thing, right? Because that's what alcohol and drugs do to you. But eventually, like I started, high school, and high school was kind of the same, but not really, because that's where. So I went to Century High my freshman year.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went to Century High. And which one? Yeah, Centurions. Yeah. So yeah, right there is where I got a lot of like negative habits for sure. A lot of homies that I used to kick it with on the table, fools that I would walk to school with, um, fools that I would ditch with. I used to ditch a lot when I was a freshman. So that build up for a lot. But my first drug was actually tweak. You know what I'm saying? Meth, right? So yeah, that was like the first time that I ever like felt that like
Superman.
in a sense, yeah, right. Like I wouldn't push the limits yet. It was kind of like, when you're younger, you kind of scared of like what it does, right? Because I don't know if you ever remember these posters, right? But I remember one time I went to this restaurant, and it had a poster of some dude like that was like straight like meth addict, just super skinny, no teeth, and it was like, do not do meth, need recovery, call this number, right? And it was right next to the urinal, so I remember that, and I was like, fuck, but fuck it, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was there, but I didn't give a fuck, I was just like, fuck it, like I'm gonna try it. And then the person that I was trying it with was like already been done it, right? So it was like it was like art in cahoots, right? Like, it was like, hey, like, this is the way that you monitor it, and this is how you keep it under control, and this is how you go undetected, whether with family, with friends, you just do it. And by this time, so I had a program, what I'm saying? Wake up early, do my thing, get high, go to school, come back, get a second hit. By like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I'm already winding down, drinking my milk, eating, chilling. 10 o'clock, 11, I'm going to sleep, and repeat. But eventually it became a necessity, right? When you're like, fuck, I ain't getting high enough. Like, I needed more. So now I'm like going to the bathroom in every class, taking one toke, making sure that nobody's looking, you know what I'm saying? If there's smoke, like, I don't know, and yeah, just different things, that I used to do sometimes. Like I said, with the ditching parties. At first, I was kind of like hesitant, because like, fuck, I don't want them to like know I'm a tweaker. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really don't want nobody to know I'm a tweaker. But eventually, I started seeing people like, in the bathroom for like, a good hour or two. Fuck it, let me get in, and that became my go-to. I started ditching basically like every day.
Did your family know that you were using drugs at that time?
So knowing, yeah, right. Like my mom, I mean, she was like always on top of it, but I think she started noticing more when I started using weed. You know, when I started like, you know, coming home and like my clothes, because she will do my laundry.
Smell it.
Yeah, so she'll smell my clothes and be like, "You're smoking cigarettes," and I was already smoking cigarettes. I was doing everything.
Yeah.
You know, you just kind of like let loose, and
Yeah.
once you feel that you can manage one drug, you're like, I can
Becomes
manage all of
easier.
them.
Yeah,
You know, and then
100%.
smoking black, you know, and fucking it was just bad.
Yeah.
You know, but at that time you don't see it. You know, because
Yeah.
just like, oh, I'm being supported by my peers. Everybody
Yeah.
does it. We all manage it. We
Yeah.
all kick it. We're cool. You know, and then that transition into like going into like house parties, right? Throwing house parties, getting high at the parties, you know, buying and selling at the parties, you know, and things like that. That I mean, you don't see the impact when you're younger. You just kind of just want to go through the motions, make money, feel cool, feel good, right? But at the end of the day, once you're like, you know, in a sense of like a different place of recovery, you start seeing how much it impacted you and how much you impacted others. You know,
it's not a problem until it's a problem.
Yeah, in a sense, right? It becomes definitely a problem, and I mean, sad to say, you know, because I mean, Santana has a lot of like homelessness, you know, and I've seen a couple individuals that I grew up with, you know, as far as like elementary, junior high, high school parties, things like that, and sometimes like I mean, I don't want to take full accountability in it, right? Because it's like it's their choices that led them there.
Yeah.
However, like I'm in a place where I can help them if they want to be helped.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And when I've had conversations with them where they're like, "Fuck, I heard you went to prison.
Yeah.
You did this. You're sober." Da da da. And it always kind of like revolves around like, how did you do it?
Yeah.
Right. And for me, that already tells me like they're not in a place where their will is like strong.
Yeah.
You know. So you know, when I tell them a certain type of formula, it might be foreign for them. It might be like, well, I don't understand it, or I don't feel like I'm capable of.
Yeah.
You know, so I suggest certain ideas and things for them to try, you know. But the accountability part too is like, I remember when we were at a party, you know, and I gave you a balloon, right? Or like I gave you a blunt, you know. So I know that also too contributed to like them getting high the next day.
Yeah.
Or I got them high that day, you know, and then the following day they went and looked upon it for themselves.
Yeah.
You know, things like that that like I think about and I'm like, fuck, like I don't want to see it as like with regret, but I see it with like accountability where it's like I was a part of that, you know, and because of that, like you're in this place, so now it's like it's not my burden to like help you, but it's like I'm willing to, you know.
Did your behaviors or alcohol or drug use get you in any trouble, like with the law? Did you ever get
Oh
arrested?
yeah,
Juvenile hall?
yeah. Juvenile hall for me, I mean, it's not like it was a joke, but eventually when I got away with a lot of things, I took it as a joke, you know. And one of my things, like when I went aboard, I'll talk about it later, but when I went to board, I have one of my triggers is defiance to authority, right? And that comes in any shape, way, or form, right? Whether it be the law, whether it be somebody, whether it be rules, whatever it is, right? Because the oppression that I had when I was a teenager, you know, my brother-in-law always like pressing rules that I was like against and rebelling against and so on and so forth. That's like a deep ingrained trigger, you know? So now I can manage it and understand it, right? Where it's like, oh shit, I'm fucking up, you know? But just because we have that addict mindset, like it's always the go-to. It's the first row, right? This is what we do. And second, and then once you get to like, you know, the third row, you're like, okay, I got tools. I can manage it. I can deal with it, you know? But always that instinct response is that, right? Like, oh, fuck this. Like, don't tell me what to do. Like, you know what I'm saying? You know, so it's difficult to manage, but it's like manageable nonetheless, you know? So when I was younger, you know, there was like certain things that when I got into truancy court, right? I got into this one fellow with at a party or whatever, and the courts wanted to give me time. But because my mom was getting dialysis, you know, she was like diabetic, you know, she sometimes walked, sometimes she didn't, right? Like I used to push her in a wheelchair, you know, she used to walk on a walker, take the bus. We never owned a car until I bought a car, you know? So just things like that, right? That the court would see, and my mom would kind of back me up too, right? And be like, oh, I need him because he's like my immediate nurse, you know? He's not my physical nurse right now, and not like that being paid, but he's my immediate nurse to take care of me. So the court would always give me like community service. They'll give me like extended probation or whatever, you know, things like that. So to me, I was like, I'm not gonna get in trouble. Even if I get in trouble, I'm not gonna get in trouble.
Out,
you know? Yeah. So that was kind of distorted, right? That's kind of how everything kind of snowballed, you know? Because even in my household, when I was throwing parties and making money and things like that, like I got a lot of liberty, right? Where it was like, well, as long as you leave and come back with money, it's all good.
Yeah.
You know? And I would come back like fucked up. Like I'll come back like stumbling. homies would carry me in the couch, there was times I wouldn't even come back home. Like, I'll take off like Thursday night, Friday night, and I won't come back to like Sunday morning. Yeah, and a lot of it had to do with like with my cuñado, right? Like my brother-in-law, like he was like very like aggressive. So it was like I'm coming back, I'm hungover, and I'm short tempered. Like that's one of the things like a lot of people don't understand it now because they deal with me and they're like, oh, you're so cool, you're so mellow. Humble, yeah, but I'm like very like I have a strong temperament. Like when I get mad, like that's it. Like I'm mad. Yeah, I'm mad as fuck, But I've learned to manage it and things like that, But at that time, like you're hungover, you're not in the best of moods, you already have resentment towards this dude. That's a fight automatically. Anything that comes out of your mouth, we're fighting, especially if it doesn't align with like my perspective or how I'm feeling. So we're always like constantly fighting every weekend, every weekday on stupid shit too, like clean the bathroom. I'll clean it when I want. No, clean it now. And then we're fighting. I remember one time I threw a fucking Windex at his head just because he wanted me to clean the bathroom on my birthday. Yeah, I was turning 16. I was turning 16 and I was heading out to meet up with some friends. And he wanted me to clean the bathroom even after I was already dressed up and things like that, So we got into it. I got blood on my shirt. It was just a bad 16th birthday, Yeah. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, at the end of the day, like eventually he left, but my habits were already there. You know what I'm saying? And then once my mom passed away, that was kind of it. You know what I'm saying? Like everything just, there was like no holds barred. Like it's just like fuck it, Sure. Yeah, do what I gotta do. And I hit the streets. I'm like very grateful for a couple homies that allowed me to stay in like in the garage. In their beds. And I couch surfed for a while too. Eventually, my aunt, she offered me a place and things like that, and was like, hey, like come live with us. But it was kind of the same thing. Like as long as you provide, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. So I just dedicated to the streets, and eventually I got cut up, for this one thing. Went to county, at 18. I went back at 19.
How was it your first time in county? Was it an eye opener for you? Was it different?
I mean, yes and no, right? Because I mean, when it's not like you're just from Santana that sees it this way, but when you're from the streets, like it becomes a pat on the back. Yeah. Right. Like you do some time, you come back out and they're like, oh, that's right. That's homie. Right. Yeah. And then you have girls that are like, oh, what the fuck? You just got out. How long did you do? Yeah. So it's like that interest, right? Where you're like, oh, fuck, you gonna give me something just because I got out. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it becomes like very distorted where you don't reflect on the lessons, right? On like the mistakes, right? So you get that slap on the wrist. And I've been having that slap on the wrist since I was 16. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, well, fuck it. I mean, it ain't shit. I could do this, right? So eventually, snowballed, and I got caught up for sales, and all that, and even at that was also too like another slap on the wrist, right? Because I only did like, out of all that, probably like 3 months, right? Tops, right? On some bullshit. Because at that time, like I had a very good lawyer, you know what I'm saying? That was like top notch. So
you had a paid lawyer?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So he looked at certain things and was able to pinpoint like a lot of things that were like inconsistent with the case, right? Yeah. So nonetheless, like for me, like I said, slap on the wrist, right? Like I don't give a fuck. I could do the time, right? And that's very distorted because when you're drinking, when you're smoking, when you're fucking around, like you don't see the reality of things, right? Like you don't tend to weigh everything out. You're just impulsive. You're on the go, go, go. Like fuck it, like. I could deal with this. I've done this. I don't care. Right. So you become desensitized to what the actual consequences can be, and that's basically what it was, eventually until I, ran a red light and I killed an 18-year-old. Oh man. Yeah. I killed an 18-year-old, it was my baby shower day. And yeah, I mean, I destroyed a whole family, I destroyed my whole family too. Yeah. Impacted multiple people in different families that, I mean, to this day, I don't know how they actually feel about me,
So you were drinking at your baby shower, you said?
Yeah.
And then where did you go? Like, why did you leave?
So basically what happened like that day was like, set up the whole event, got some food, there was catering and things like that. And I mean, when you're an alcoholic, like you don't care, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. You don't, it's somebody died, we're drinking, somebody's birthday, we're drinking, somebody got fucking a new car, we're drinking, baby shower, we're drinking. And a lot of other things, especially like at that time I was doing a lot of coke too. So it's just like, you really don't have like that. You become irrational, right? So for me, it was like, we were drinking, we were doing our thing and things are running low, right? So it's like, hey, let's go re-up, right? So I get in the car, and I take off and then I start speeding. That was one of the things. I used to speed a lot, I used to go like 120.
Were you drunk or you just buzzed?
So I mean, I was drunk, you know. I wasn't like belligerent drunk where I'm like, oh fuck, I can't drive. But it was like I was drunk. I had alcohol in my system for sure. And yeah, I just everything was easy, you know, running red lights, you know, running over like, you know, certain lights, crossing over on people, cutting people, you know, and I thought I was the fucking hot shit, you know, and that's the thing about it. Like once you get all these like passes, you start growing an inflated sense of confidence, right? Where it's like, oh, I got this, you know, ain't shit gonna happen. I'm better than the law, I'm smarter than the law, so on and so forth, you know, and eventually I ran that red light and I T-boned a car, you know, and an 18-year-old died, you know. I mean, I knew him too, you know. I never speak of his name. Yeah, I never speak of his name out of respect, you know, for the family and things like that, because I know that's a wound that will never heal, you know what I'm saying? Like all the scars I can give him are not gonna ever heal that.
Was it in your neighborhood or down the
So it was on Bristol and Central, you know. Okay, yeah, it was in 2014. Yeah, 2014. Yeah. Yeah, so at the end of the day, like the things that I do, like what I do now, is in hope that I can make amends for all of that, you know. And it's a lifetime thing, you know.
So what happened when you got arrested? So they took you to the Santa Ana jail or the county
jail? So I every time I get arrested, I go to Santa Ana jail first, and then I go to and then I go to the county. Yeah, it's always been like that. And so I went over there, and I had declined like the help, right? Because it was a strong impact. So I was just trying to like get in and get out, like what's happening. I got a baby shower to go back to, like what's happening, you know what I'm saying? And they were like, oh, well, we're gonna arrest you, this and that. And I go, all right, cool, well, I'll bail out, you know. When I got to the station, that's when they broke it down. They were like, hey, like you killed somebody, you know. And I thought it was a scare tactic at first, you know, where I was like, nah, like you got to be kidding me, right? And they were like, no, we're serious, right?
How did you feel in that moment when you told
you? I felt like shit, you know what I'm saying? Like you get like these goosebumps. I don't even know how to explain it, right? Like you just get like this rush through your body that you're that you're like, what the fuck? Like you feel uncomfortable, right? And I started feeling a lot of pain. It was like anxiety, pain, like a bunch of shit, right? So they're already taking off my shoes and like giving them the belt. You know how you got to like take off shoes and belts and laces and things like that. So they already had my property, but not like what was immediately on me, right? And so I started feeling this pain like under my ribs, you know? And I'm like, fuck, I feel this pain. So I told the cop, like, yeah, I'm in pain. Like, I can't breathe, you know? And then all of a sudden I just starts getting like little blinks of like black. And then I guess I passed out. I passed the fuck out.
No way.
Yeah. And then I ended up in the ambulance, and I felt like a cold rush. Like when you shoot up, I felt a cold rush, right? And I was like, oh, what the fuck, you know? Crazy. Yeah, something. I don't know what it was. Like I think they gave me like a adrenaline rush or something just to wake me up, right? I don't know what it was because I was out. And then it woke me up, and then I passed out again. And then when I wake up, I'm at the CAT scan, right, or the MRI, one of them two. It's like a little donut, and it goes, yeah. So I wake up, and they're like, "Don't move," and I'm handcuffed to like the bed, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" So I passed out again, right? I don't know if they were like shooting me shit just to pass out, or if it was just me like in shock or whatever, you know. And then I remember waking up. I was in a hospital bed, and the cop wakes me up. He's waking me up, and he's like, "Yeah, that's you." And I was like, "What do you mean?" So I look at the TV, and it's me, my big old fucking mascara, right? The fucking face shot. Yeah, they had my mugshot, and it was like, oh, you know, 23-year-old kills an 18-year-old in Santa Ana, da da da. And I was like, damn, it's real. Like, you know, it starts creeping in, right? And then he's like, get ready, you know, we're gonna head out in a little bit, you know, da da da. And when they escort you, they tell you, you know what I'm saying, if you run, we're gonna fucking shoot you, you know. So I was like, I don't even have the energy to fucking run. Like my whole back was fucked up, like all this shit. Like on my mugshot, you can't see it, but that was 2 days later. All of this shit was purple, you know, just because of the seatbelt impact. You know, all of this shit was purple. I had scratches like underneath. The glass fucking cut my shit. Like, yeah, it was bad, right? But on the mugshot, you just see me like, I think I'm like this, like some shit like that, you know. But yeah, it was a life experience, right? Where even at that time, like I didn't have the insight, right? Or like the in-depth, right? To reflect, right? Like I wasn't used to reflecting. I was just more to like feeling sorry for myself, right? Like, oh, life is shitty. You know, my mom died, you know, girlfriend left me, blah, blah, blah. They don't like me, yada, yada. And that's like the mindset that gets you into like clinging onto like drugs to alcohol, because it's like the only escape that you have is alcohol and drugs, because that's all you know. That's all I've been known since I was like 13.
That's a go-to.
You know what I'm saying? That was the go-to for me. So I didn't know any better, right? And then through the process of it, like still like for my first year in county, like I fucked around a lot, you know. I fucked around, I drank, and then that was like the catalyst for like my marriage fucking going down the drain. You know, like I would go down to visit all fucked up, you know, I'll be on the phone fucked up. Like thought I was cool, like trying to run a fucking household from prison, like Wolfram County Jail, you know, do this, do that for me, yada yada. Okay, I love you. And the I love you was like the okay for sure, you know, and it just distorted, you know what I'm saying? Like not I mean I take accountability for it now, you know, but at that time it's like when you have that drug addict, like alcoholic mindset, you feel like you're coming up.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and you're not seeing how selfish you are. You're not seeing how you're impacting the person that wants to be there for you, and so on and so forth. You know, I take a lot of accountability in how that relationship played out. You know.
So how was doing time for that case?
Woo.
Did you get into any stuff while you're in there? Any problems or?
I mean, there always is problems in there. You know what I'm saying? Just because of like how either who you are, what you represent, or like the way you think. You know. So for me, like in the first year, like you want to be a part of it. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. You come in and I think for me, like I got involved way before I even went in there. You know what I'm saying? With the whole parties and like different areas of the city. Comes with a little bit of like finances, right? Like who's who, what's what goes where. And eventually that kind of gets your foot in the door. Right. And then when you slang, there's, you know, other finances you gotta, you know, you gotta make sure that you know who's the notary and who's the policy guy and so on and so forth. Right. And so stepping into there and not being there for a short amount of time, like now being there for a long extended period of time and fighting your case, then that's kind of where it's like, okay, well, this is what you're capable of, you know, this is maybe what you can get yourself involved, right, and see how it goes, right? But when you're like around certain people, you feel like it's capable, right? Because you start building like a sense of bonding, right? Like a brotherhood, right? Where it's like you sleep with everybody the same night, you eat with everybody at the same time, you work out with everybody at the same time, you share each other's problems, right? You read each other's letters, right? And then you get perspective, right? We share books, we share clothes if need to be, you know, we share shampoo, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. So that's everybody who's fighting life, you know, because everybody comes and goes. Everybody comes and goes, but those that are fighting life, they stay there. You know what I'm saying? So if you're getting high and I'm not getting high, then we're like at odds. You know, we're not feeling so cool, you know, with each other. So at that time, like I just wanted to bond, and I felt like I had a lot of lead, right? Like a lot of say so in certain things, right? Like in a de facto type of like attitude, because nonetheless I'm a resident, you know. But just the way I thought, the books I had, and things like that, that feeds everybody in a sense, like food of thought, you know what I'm saying, or for the soul and so on and so forth, you know, because sometimes you need shit like that, you know, especially when you're in an environment like that where you have nothing but time for yourself.
100%.
You know, so yeah, and I mean, like I'm an artist, you know, so my initial journey of like art started with like me getting high and drawing, you know, getting that confidence in and sketching things out, you know, doing tracing, Mickey Mouse patterns, anything that was available, you know what I'm saying, just tracing in, filling it in and seeing how it goes, using the eraser, you know, doing shaders, you know, out of like just paper, you know, things like that. So just experimenting, you know, but I was constantly getting high. You know, I was constantly drinking, you know, the batches was like everything we would look forward to. Oh, who's going to canteen? Get the Kool-Aid, you know, oh, who's going to fucking Fridays? Let's get the oranges and yada, yada, you know, or save the apples or whatever, you know? And and then it just, who's going to get the bags, right? Like that was the biggest thing, right? Because you had to cook a batch. So you would have to do it in a bag. And then who's peeling and who's like watching and, hey, walking. Like, it was a lot, you know what I'm saying? But powder. Yeah, but just to get, exactly, right? But just to get it done, we went through a lot of things, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like, I didn't see how detrimental that was, you know what I'm saying? Because like, even though like we're in a little small bubble and environment that's out of like the society, the mindset is only getting reinforced, right? Where it's like, fuck the law, fuck this, you know? I'm still getting high. I just killed somebody, but I'm still drinking. And my ex-wife would always hold me accountable to that, right? Which would be like, oh, like, why are you drinking when you just kill somebody? You know, and I was rude. I mean, I'm still rude at some extent. I could be very rude, right? But I choose not to be now. At that time I was just reacting because I was hurt. I was going through a lot of shit, and like just the circumstances of what I put myself in, like I was unhappy with everything. So when she would hold me accountable, I'd be like, what is it to you? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, mind your own business. Like,
Yeah.
women don't speak to me like that. I remember like I would tell her, like, I don't want to hear it from you. But just little things like that,
Yeah.
that now I feel like I fucked up as a partner, and
Yeah.
I still do that sometimes, where it's like I don't want to hear it, but when I put my pride down, then I reflect
Yeah.
on it and be like, okay, like maybe she's right, maybe he's right, like there's some truth to that. But it's always that guard, you have it up, so it's like sometimes difficult to even ask for help or to accept somebody else's perspective when your perception is dominating the situation. Um,
So how was court like when you went and they told you like
so
what you were looking at, and when did you
yeah,
have
so
get
at first I went
sentenced?
in, and it was a manslaughter case, right? So my
Yeah.
bail was 100,000. So I was like, okay, cool, just bail me out. It is what it is. The bail didn't go through. So I ended up going down to CJ1, and my attorney was like, look, Herbs, like they're gonna put the murder on you. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, why? He's like, oh, because it's your second DUI, and you have it's called the Watson Agreement, which is like, if you ever drink and kill somebody, you will be charged with murder. That's like verbatim. That's like what's on the label, right?
Oh man.
Yeah. So a lot of people that get DUI sign it, but they don't read it. I was one of those that signed it, get me
Oh
out, and never read
man.
it. Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know that, man.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's called the Watson Agreement. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then
So you get that
mothers,
after your first DUI?
yeah.
Okay.
So Mothers Against Drunk Drivers is like reinforces
Oh,
that.
okay, okay.
Comes through mad. So I didn't know that, right? I never read it, but it's like they say, ignorance is not a defense in
Yes,
court.
at all, yeah.
Yeah. So it just little things like that. Like you go into the motion, you start like, okay, I'm gonna get awareness, I'm gonna get knowledge. I'm gonna know the books, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm hoping to come back and fight it, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it didn't work out that way, right? Like I went to court, and I was a chainer. I was a
Yeah.
chainer, so I'll be like, from my toes, and I'm going out my toes, but like my feet
Ankles,
shackled
yeah.
up, my hands, and I'm like, it was uncomfortable because they do
Yeah,
the waist,
chain.
the waist chain, and sometimes they put it really tight, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like hard to sit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to like, I remember the homies would be like, oh, blow up your stomach, fool. And sometimes I blow it up and it'll work out where it's
Yeah.
like I have some room,
Yeah.
and sometimes the cops will know that you're blowing it up, so they'll do it even
Yeah.
tighter. So it'll backfire sometimes. But I mean, court days were just dry runs, all the time. But for me, it was like exciting because I would be able to like, see my family. Sometimes I'll go like in groups of 5. Sometimes like my ex-wife would go, and I'll be able to like just be out there and see her like on a weekday instead of like the weekend. But yeah, eventually like going to court and then like not having that hope, like it affects you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It affects you. But I was glad I went through all that process like sober.
Yeah.
Because I sobered up like my first year and some change. I sobered up where I didn't like. So somebody had told me like when you talk shit on your partner, you also have fault in that because you don't see your partner for all their qualities. You only see them for the good qualities, right? So it was like there's some good and bad in her, but you got to pick and choose what you can learn from, to not do and then to grow from, right? And that was kind of like the first time that somebody spoke like kind of like wisdom to me that was like incarcerated too, where I was like, I get it, OG, but I truly don't give a fuck. I didn't say it like that, but my language was kind of like, all right, cool, I'll keep it in mind. Thanks.
Yeah.
And to me, I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like in the back of my head, I was like, I don't give a fuck. But that was just pride getting in the way of like growth. And then eventually, like I'm playing cards one day. I remember this shit because it was gonna be my son's birthday. I'm playing Pinochle, and we were like in a set of like 5 of us, right? Well, it was 4 of us playing, and then one was like on the side, just kind of like kicking it.
The cheat
And
sheet or without the cheat sheet?
without a cheat sheet, like I shoot it, I'm pretty good,
Right, yeah.
And we're just playing, boom, and then I'm like, fuck, like what am I doing? You know what I'm saying? Like everybody's fucking yakking it, and it's like, and it was like, I want to say it was like close to like December, like no November 29th or some shit like that. And then I was like, fuck, like I don't want to do this, you know what I'm saying? I was like, I don't want to do this. And I remember like I just left the cards and I told the homie that was waiting, I was like, hey, fool, run my hand. So I go to my bunk and like, I ten up. I ten
Yeah.
up and I'm just in there like thinking, and I'm like thinking because in there you learn to think. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
You learn to think about a lot, whether it be good, whether it be bad, replaying your whole life, replaying a scenario, conversations. You know, you get very good with like verbatim, which I hate now because it's like I pick up on people's words.
Yeah.
And then it's like I make assumptions, right? So sometimes it's like, okay, I'd rather just let it play out. You know, you told me something, let me see the action behind it. You know, so it's difficult for me now, right? But at that time, you start learning how to think. You know, you start learning how to process. You know, start seeing people's behaviors. You know, their mañas, right? What they call them. And yeah. So long story short, like I tried getting sober and I kicked. You know, and that was like it was bad for me. You know, because it was like the first time that I actually like went without and then back again. Like I couldn't take it. Like, fuck this. You know, give me a caldito. Let me get just taper off properly, right? What they call it, right? So then again, and then eventually once I got it right was December 8th. So I'm stepping into my 10th year pretty soon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I got it right, and I just started becoming abstinent, right? Like it wasn't even about sobriety. It was just like, nah, I'm cool, I'm good. And that's when things kind of started changing, right? Like that brotherhood, like that bond was kind of like, oh, you're getting watered down herbs, like food, you know, there we go, you know, the future Christian, right? Shit like that, right? So it was like, all right, whatever, food, like we're cool like 2 weeks ago when we were fucking around. Now that I'm trying to get on a different path, like, you know, now we find some type of like tension, right? And then eventually I filed my case, you know, and then, like I said, I mean, there was like really no hope for it, you know, like I kept going like to different court dates, like in my attorney telling me like, oh, it's 29 to life, you know, like this is like the max right now. This is what we're looking at if you go to trial. And then, you know, like I said, you know, my ex and I, we kind of broke up, you know, so it was like, to me, it's like I'm losing everything. You know what I'm saying? I'm losing my freedom. I'm losing my family. I'm losing like, you know, my female, right? The one that I can like be soft and kind with. I don't have that, right? My child, I wasn't seeing them as often. My other children either. Like there was just a lot that was happening, right? And in a sense, like I'm blaming myself, but I don't want to blame myself. Because it's hard to take accountability.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm blaming the situation, or if I wasn't in this, if I wasn't doing that, but that only makes you feel worse. You know what I'm saying? It only makes you feel like fucked up, where you're like, fuck, man, is it really happening or is it all a dream? You know what I'm saying? Because it's a fucked up feeling to be in. You know? And then understanding like the impact that you did, you know, is like another fucked up feeling where it's like, fuck, that's a lot of remorse on my behalf and guilt that I have to deal with. You know, I can't just overlook it and be like, well, fuck it, it happened. You know, there's some homies that are very callous like that.
That bury it and don't even deal with it. Don't even acknowledge it. You know what I mean? Like chalk it up as part of the game.
Yeah, you know, and I dealt with that too, you know, because those were conversations that were difficult to be had at that time, you know, where they'll be like, oh, just fucking get over it, herbs. Like that fool's dead already, you know, and it was like, fuck, like my heart don't tick like that. You know what I'm saying? Even though like I could be cold and so on and so forth, like I felt fucked up by taking a life, you know, because that's what when you grow up, that's what they say, like you don't kill, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, long story short, for me that was like very difficult. And then when I got sentenced, like that was like the most painful day of my life, you know what I'm saying? Aside from like my mom dying, that one was like super painful because it's like that's it, you know what I'm saying? Like you're officially sentenced to life, you know. And then when you're in there, all the homies, they're like, oh, you watched the.
So what was your sentence?
My sentence was 15 to life. Okay. Yeah, I ended up taking a deal.
Oh, you took a deal?
Yeah, I took a deal.
Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and then same reaction, right? All the homies would be like, what the fuck? You taking it to the box, like we had action. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, I know what I did. You know what I'm saying?
Accountability for your actions.
Yeah, you know, and at the end of the day, like this is because I got into it with my attorney, you know, rest in peace, my attorney died. But, you know, when he was like, you know, telling me like, hey, like this is in your best interest, right? I was like, fuck no, how am I gonna sign a life sentence? Like, are you serious? You know, so we were going back and forth, and so he told me, oh, the DA gave us 2 days, you know, either figure it out or we're going to trial. Right? So I didn't budge. I was like, fuck that, we're going to trial, you know. So we're doing like jury selection, where we pull up and doing jury selection or whatever. And he told me, like, he's giving you like another chance. Like, if I was you, I'll take it. You know, and I was like, why should I take it? You know, and then he was like, because you don't want to be that dude that, you know, does 15 years, could have gone aboard, and because of your pride, you end up doing another 15 years. And then you go to board on your 29. You know, when you come home, you're going to be like fucking 60. And I'm like, fuck. You know, I was like, let me think about it. Let me talk to my wife, because she was still my wife, but we were not together. We were just on paper, right? Which is why I always say like titles don't mean shit in a relationship. Like it's a dynamic, right? And how you make it work. So I go back and I'm talking to her, whatever, and she wants me to take it to the box, right? And she's like, take it to the box, take it to the box. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know. So I call my sister, and then I call a couple homies and I'm like, hey, what do you think? Yada, yada. So I made it in my heart and I was like, I'm just going to take the deal. Like, I know 15 years are going to buy it. Like, it's going to take some time. Already been done too. It's going to take some time, but it's doable,
Yeah.
So I signed whatever, got sentenced, came back, and then you see like everybody's face, you know what I'm saying? Like, where they're like, fuck, fool, you're never getting out.
Yeah.
Like, they give you that hug, that embrace, especially the day I took the chain. It was crazy because everybody gave me like a group hug, like I was like, hey, fool, I'm gone. I had a lot of love, with the homies, like I still do,
Yeah.
But it was like that one time when I was leaving like the tank, everybody like came around and hugged me, like, hey, fool, suerte, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but it felt good, but at the same time, it was like unconsciously, it was like, fuck, like they know that I'm never coming back.
Yeah.
And I've never shared this experience, especially like on a podcast, but so the day I got sentenced, my ex's dad got acquitted for murder.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so the day I called that I was being sentenced, they were in celebration status.
No way.
Yeah, so it was like a lot of mixed feelings where I was like, I'm trying to like vent, trying to feel some support, but they're like, happy as fuck, her dad like not knowing how to dial on a phone. He's been down for a minute too, so things like that, right? That I was like, fuck, like it is what it is,
Yeah.
But then too, the day I got sentenced, I got on the wrong bus.
What?
Yeah, so you know how they call you for court, and then they're like, "Oh, your bus is ready to go back." I was at the main. I was housed at the main. So that bus in particular took me to I went to Lacey.
No way.
I swear to God, yeah. But to me it was beautiful, right? Because it was the last time I got to see Santana like that.
Oh yeah, you got to
I got up and I was like, fuck, and it's crazy, right? Because I was with certain homies and I was like, hey, fool, like I'm housed at the main. Why am I on this bus, right?
Yeah.
And one of the homies too, he's out here too. He was like, oh, fool, probably your points went up. So you're going to the mods, because you just got sentenced to life. So they want to make sure that there's no funny shit, And I was like, fuck, like I hated the mods. The mods are just no action, right? So I was like, all right, cool, whatever, So I get over there and the cops like, what the fuck? You don't even live here. Like, we're going to take you back, So they put me in the back, they put me back. And then they bring in like some trans or whatever in the front, small cages, the PCs, they separate them or whatever. And then I was just chilling. And then on the drive back, like they start playing that song Free Falling, right?
Yeah, Tom Petty.
But yeah, so I got it in my field because I was like, fuck, like I don't know if I'm ever going to see the city again, and I grew up in it and I walked those streets, and I just like a lot of reminiscing, right? Like walking through that street, waiting on that bus stop, going to eat here, going to this McDonald's, going to SAC, like going down Civic Center, going to the stadium, like shit like that,
Bristol,
all these like memories started coming about and I got in my feels, and never shared that before, I think I've only probably told that to like 2-3 people,
That's right.
But at the end of the day, like that was like for me like very important, because it was like, okay, like what's the odds of that happening, right? Like of me seeing my city one last time instead of like being, I don't know if you've been at the main at the roof.
Yeah.
So the roof, you can see like the whole city. You see the city lights and things like that, and as far as like the eye can see, right? But actually like going through it and like looking at the other cars was like a different feel, So I went up, I went upstate and like I went to Wasco, right? Yeah. So Wasco was like, for me, it was intense, right? Because county, it's like, it's county, there's some knives, maybe not, but they're not like, they're not going to kill you. You know what I'm saying? You go to Wasco, then those are like knives that will penetrate you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
real shit.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's, and as soon as I got there, there was one of the homies and was like, hey, fool, what's up? Like, what you need, right? And I was like, whatever you can get me, right? So he gave me this care package, and I mean, a lot of things come with obligations, right? Like hand in hand, right? So I got put on as a porter and so on and so forth, and I started learning the ropes, you know what I'm saying? Because you start meeting cats that have been down 30 years, 40 years, especially at that time. Prop 57 was kind of kicking in, so a lot of them were coming down to the county, getting resentenced, and then going back to like the main line, reception, right? So I brushed elbows with a lot of OGs, and a lot of them were like intrigued, but some of them were kind of like, like we don't know what's
Prop
up with you.
57 if the audience doesn't know?
So Prop 57 basically is, I mean, for me, the way it qualified me, right, is that certain lifers can get milestones to get their time reduction for them to go to board sooner. Or if there's any type of like drug charge, then it can be reconsidered for them to go to board on their time frame for say they get 3 years and then enhancements like 7 instead of doing the 10, then they'll go on the 3rd year for board. And then they have an option whether to either get released or not. But those are like minor offenses, right? On a lifer perspective, it's more of like you're enabled to get milestones. You're enabled to join certain programs for rehabilitation, you know, and you get to be considered in board sooner than your actual time frame,
I remember when I was younger and I was getting busted, like people were getting 7 to life, 5 to life, 15 to life, you know what I mean? And there was guys that I was with like 20 years after we're in juvenile hall that were still busted with 5 to life, 7 to life.
Oh yeah. There was a lot of men like that, especially like I said about them coming to like reception. There was a lot of homies. It was like a lot of the homies had like 7 to life, 5 to life. There was this Asian dude that had 3 to life, and he'd been down like 30 something years, and it was like at that time it was like why, right? Like why? I kind of didn't understand the process of board, but it was just kind of like I'm asking why, and some people feel uncomfortable, like because then that's when the whole like background story comes where it's like, oh, this was somebody, he's exchanging like that small time frame to go to board to become somebody in the system in any way, shape, or form. So it's uncomfortable to ask somebody who has a status, and I'm just this kid from Santana. You know what I'm saying? So having those conversations, then I got laced up where it's like you don't ask everybody about their charge. If they're on the main line, they're already good. They've been checked. So it's like, okay, cool, like noted, right? Like I understand the process.
So what prison did you go to from Moscow?
So at Wasco, I caught valley fever.
No way. That's right. That's Central Valley stuff right there.
Yeah. So I caught valley fever. I was supposed to go to Ironwood or Centinela. Okay. So I caught valley fever, and because I caught valley fever, they placed me on the main line because I was under like the medical hold.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I went to the main line, I got an override because I was level 4 points. And then they dropped me for a level 3. So when I went to my annual, we're like, you're just staying here. Cool. So I stayed there. That's where I started programming. I started programming a lot, getting classes, college courses and things like that. And just understanding like there's a little bit more to you than what you think. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not like I didn't know myself, but it's just like I didn't know myself like as in depth, right? Like certain things that you might overlook as problems are fucking problems. Right. And then you can see those problems in other people. Once you start identifying them in yourself, you can see them in others, but some other people are not so receptive, right? Where they feel like they got it all figured out, things like that. And it's like you pick and choose who you're gonna have those conversations with that you can dive into depth with. And then other ones where you just gotta skim the surface and be like, all right, cool. Like I won't be the one to challenge your beliefs because I already know we're gonna have an issue. But when that time comes that I understand you're like challenging those beliefs, then we can maybe have this conversation a little bit more profound, right? And just picking and choosing, right? Picking and choosing. And like I said, I got laced up pretty well, and I got associated with certain people, some good, some bad, you know what I'm saying? But you learn a little bit of everything, like their stilo, you pick up on it, the way that they manage certain things, how they address people, right? That's the thing about that. It's been like one of my hardest things, right? It's like I address men a certain way, and then I'm trying to address women a certain way. But sometimes I don't do that assertively. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm just so accustomed to like that whole decade to deal with men, to talk to men, to be like, having those mannerisms of like, they might come across aggressive to a woman, but to a man, it's kind of like, okay, I get you. I know what you're saying, right? Especially the whole prison talk, right? Where you have like your hands and you know what I'm saying? Like, so there's gestures that are recognizable, right? That are like understood, like, okay, cool, I get it, right? And with women, it's kind of like keep your finger out of my face, shit like that. So it's just funny, right? It's not funny, but it's like that's an area of improvement that I have to like work on because, like I said, all that communication style is different out here, But I learned a lot, the way to think, to really slow down, to like look within, right? Like check in with yourself, and that's one thing that I never did when I was on the streets before. I never checked in with myself. I knew that I was like feeling some type of way, that I was feeling sad, it says kind of like mild depression because like my mom had died and things like that. But I had not checked with myself. Like, what did I do good for the day, right? Like, what am I grateful for?
Were your sisters or family members in contact with you during your
incarceration? Yeah, most definitely, yeah.
Okay.
So that
was support, right?
Oh yeah, okay. And that was one of the things, right? Like when I got sentenced, my attorney wanted me to get sentenced immediately as soon as we got the deal, and I was like, "Fuck them, we're gonna postpone 2 weeks after," because for me, like if I sign without my family being present, then that means that I could do the time without them.
Yeah.
There's an article, if you guys Google it or whatever, there's an article where it says like I spoke to my family, and it was like I meant it.
Yeah.
You start becoming a man of your word as you get older. You know, and I told them the day I get out, I'm gonna be a better man. I fucked up, and I'm sorry. Like I get it. Like you guys are still here, and this is not just for you guys, for myself too. But the day I get out, I'm gonna be a better man. Shit, I'm here now.
Yeah. So when did you find out that you were getting paroled? And so how was it like going to board and like actually getting that news?
So I mean, it's difficult, right? Because you have to prep. You really have to prep. You have to look at things. And for me, I had sponsors. I only had 2 sponsors when I was in there. But my first sponsor, he was beastie. This fool was. If there was somebody that was going to challenge you, it was him. And he had done 26 years in the shoe. You know what I'm saying? So he didn't fuck around. Like his style was just like, we're gonna get to it. We're gonna work on it as long as it takes, but we're gonna get to it. He had like that, like colonel kind of mindset. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like I don't leave you behind, but if you want to stay behind, don't expect to come back type of deal. You know what I'm saying? You're jumping ship and get the fuck out. If it gets difficult, I'm here for you, but I'm not gonna do it for you either. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give you a little bit of like hints and let you figure it out like on a like what they call like the Socratic method, right? Like I'm gonna give you questions for you to figure it out, but I won't give you the answers, right? So his style was just kind of like, this is it. And when you're first starting the steps, like you don't want to trust anybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You don't want to start like indulging in things and being like, oh, well, this is everything I've done. And it's like, okay, now they can use it against you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Especially the way that he moved, it's not like he lived a double life, but he was like very heavy on the yard, but he was also heavily involved in the programs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he had a lot of influence on both, and staff respected him, So once I got under his wing, as far as like, being a sponsee, like it gave me a lot of perks, So it's not like I looked at the perks and was like, oh shit, like, my sponsor is, but it was more kind of like, okay, cool. Like, I'm gonna chill with them today and like, we're going to chop it up and then we're probably going to play some chess and walk the yard a little bit. Like, from the outside looking in, it looks like, oh, this was an associate.
Yeah.
Right. From the inside looking in, it's kind of like we're both growing with each other, but you're teaching me things that I do not know about myself.
Yeah.
So like I said, he was very committed to the program, and we had a lot of conversations, and eventually I got to like the step 4. He was pressing a lot of shit, pressing on a lot of shit, and I was uncomfortable, but eventually like that consistency, like that pressure, like allowed me kind of like to start looking deeper, right? Start looking deeper.
Your part in things.
Yeah, look into things and look into like actually like forgiveness, or like what does it look like for somebody else?
Yeah.
And what does it look like for me? How does it feel for myself, right? And how does it feel for them, right? And if I have the opportunity to let them know, like, yeah, I forgive you for this shit, the first time I did that was like with my sister, and it kind of, I didn't get the expectation, right? Like it didn't meet my expectations because she was like, I don't have to be forgiven for that, right? And for me, I was like, what? So it's like one of those like, am I really the victim or am I not? Or have I been feeling like the victim when there was really nothing to be victimized about, right? Yeah. So it's like it gives you a different perspective, right? Looking at all that, looking at certain things, making amends, right? I remember I reached out to this one girl, and she was like, "Oh, for what it's worth, like I forgave you, but don't ever fucking hit me up," right? So I was like, backfired, right?
Yeah.
But you learn that, with the steps, you definitely learn that with the steps, if it's going to create more harm or not, like, why reach out?
Yeah, just living amends. Yeah.
Of course, so so you have like different like avenues, right, to take care of like what you got to take care of, and either whether it be amends, whether it be like self-forgiveness, forgiveness for others, or just understanding. I think understanding is like very profound when you really look at things in somebody else's shoes. You start learning how they live, how they feel, how they want to be, things like that. So other programs, right, there was like self-help groups, there was like substance abuse classes too, that like related on triggers. on even just like the senses, right? You have like a body reaction to certain things. You have like a mental reaction to things you hear, to things you see. And those are things that sometimes like, but then like when it's explained on paper, it makes more sense, right? Where it's like, fuck, I reacted to this shit because of how it looked, right? And that's how my brain processed it. So therefore, this is how I reacted.
Yeah.
And you start learning the difference of like response to like reaction, right? But overall, like I said, it was a lot of prepping, a lot of like writing down like a lot of things, writing down like your whole life story, what I'm saying, from like the youth, like teenage years to like, incarcerated time to even my fuck ups, right? Because I got some write ups. I used to be the Mac rep of the yard, so I got a write up on that.
Yeah.
And there's little things like that, right? That you have to take accountability for, and not just like, oh, I did it, but like really break down like why and how and who did it affect and what was my part, which is the same thing as a step form, but it's just like
100%.
not broken down like that. It just, the board wants to see accountability. They want to see contrast. They want to see change. They want to see even like how you dialect, right? Like your dialogue. What does that look like? So I went in there calm, and there was a lot of shots fired, especially when the opening session, like they were like, oh, I see all these support letters, but I don't see a support letter from your mother.
No way.
Right. So they wanted a reaction to be like, so I just did quiet, put my head down, just did quiet. And they were like, Mr. Calderon, we don't see a letter from your mother. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, she passed away,
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay. They didn't even say sorry, nothing like that. Yeah. They just brushed it over. But those are things to see if you get triggered or not, and it's not like you're smarter than that. It's just like when you're in a place of like peace and calm, things like that don't really affect you. You know what I'm saying? You allow them to affect you. There's things that I allow to affect me, but that's because either I'm emotionally invested or I'm like not balanced at the moment, and I recognize that though. It still happens, right? But nonetheless, like they go through the whole process. They ask you questions, they give you scenarios, they ask you about associations, so on and so forth. And I mean, like I said, I'm home, at the end of the day. So when it comes down to that, it's like just understanding like the belonging, right? Like you want to belong to something, you want to belong somewhere, you want to have some type of like community, right? You want to feel safe, you want to be able to use some showers, use the phone in exchange for certain obligations and entities and things like that, and I've always said this, like when you're a lifer, like that's your home.
Yeah.
What I'm saying? It's no longer like that temporary environment that you're like stepping into and you're like, oh, fuck it, I'll be out like in a week, a month, 2 years. There's no end time.
Yeah.
So when it's your home, like you really embrace it, you start like looking at things a little bit different where you want the peace. You know what I'm saying? You want the peace that comes with, well, whatever kind of peace that looks like, because any day shit can crack.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? You get this one dude that's a liability, or there's another race that has a liability, volatile situation that become hostile, and then a full riot, which is like massacres,
Yeah.
So, just one of the strongest indicators, right, for when there's like tension, it's like people don't walk the track.
Yeah.
Everybody that's like in their own car stays like within their areas, and those are scary moments, because like, I mean, you get strapped up, for whoever understands that, like you get strapped up just because you want to preserve your life. It's not like you're condoning to the violence, but it's survival mode, you know what I'm saying? And you learn there's a certain type of like nervousness, right? A certain type of like fear, right, that you feel within those moments. And you slowly start desensitizing from it. Where you're like, fuck it, like I got this, like I'm fearless about this situation, and the worst thing that could happen is like somebody that you're close to dies, somebody that that you're spending time with, or somebody that is next to you, things happen, or it could be you, but when things like that happen, like the tension, like it's a fucked up feeling, because you start, I mean, at least for me, I'll be thinking of like my sister, my children, like, I haven't talked to them like in a day or two, and you start thinking about like, oh, I love you, make sure you come home, stay out of trouble. Especially when board was coming, I was like, fuck, like I'm going to board soon, I don't know, I don't want to play with their feelings and tell them, oh, I'm going home, there's no possibility. So it's like there's a lot, right? And then like, shit like that happens where you're like, fuck, like, it might just pop off today, and that means that I'm going to another prison. That means that at the end of the day, I'm fucking, fucking off my board, and it is what it is, But not like it is what it is, but I'm just saying like it's either I'm gonna survive or I'm gonna fucking, because it's do or die in there. Like I don't want to put it like that, but I mean, like I said, obligations,
Yeah.
especially if you want to, be within that circle. Um, but yeah, eventually when I went to board and I got found suitable, like I cried, I teared up, because I was like, fuck, like,
I mean, you got a new lease on life now. You know what I mean? Like, you're
yeah,
actually gonna be out of that prison.
yeah. It was a lot of disbelief, where I was like, fuck, like, are you serious? Like, and then
did you think that it could be like not coming true? Did you think it was fake, or
I mean, no, right?
Because like I wouldn't like believe it until I was out those gates. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. A lot of disbelief, right? Because so when I first like got found suitable, I was in this program. It was called the Five Ventures. I got some pictures like on my Facebook and Instagram. But so I was a facilitator, right? So it was like based on business, and when you run a business, like you have to be like mentally, spiritual, and emotionally balanced to be able to perform assertively in your business, right? So it gives you a lot of tools. So this particular day, they were having an event downstairs, and then I went to board upstairs. So the cop had already told downstairs, like, hey, he got found suitable, right? Because they were like, hey, like, let us know if he got found suitable. So I went over there. They deliberated for like 30 minutes, right? And then they called me back in there, and they're like, oh, we no longer find you, a threat to society, da da da, and I'm like, like I'm fucking tearing up, right? And then I was just like, I'm grateful, and so on and so forth. And they're like, oh, do well. We're gonna give you a rap sheet, like what needs to be done, mitigating factors and things like that, and then the steps that are coming, for your release. And I was like, all right, cool. So as soon as I get out, I get escorted, right? I get escorted because at that time there used to be bulldogs on the yard.
Yeah.
So we would get escorted because I ran home or whatever. So I get escorted, and they escort me downstairs to the visiting room. So that's where the event was at. And they were like, oh, fucking, did you get found suitable? And I was like, yeah. So then everybody starts hugging me, and they throw the mic at me right away.
No way.
And they're like, oh, give a little spill, and I was like super like, I was hyper like emotional, what I'm saying? Like, I don't get overstimulated often, but when I do, like, I lose my senses. Like, I just get fucking, and it's a trip because I've been in situations where I should have lost like all my senses, but I haven't, what I'm saying? And then moments that are like, there's a lot of noise or I feel some type of way, then it's like, I become a little bimbo,
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that day I was overstimulated and I spoke, and everybody kind of like clapped, and I kind of choked up too, right? Because I was like, I don't, a part of me feels like I don't deserve it. What I'm saying? A part of me feels like I don't deserve it because life is priceless, like life is like something that everybody's entitled to, and we recklessly and selfishly took it from somebody.
Yeah.
And then as I was saying that, like I kind of got like choked up, and then one of the homies from the front seat came and hugged me, and kind of just stood by me, and he was like, you got this, and I was like, fuck, and I kind of expressed it, like I was in a prison before I went to prison, and I was in a prison in my own mind, with my own feelings, with my own drug addictions, my alcoholism, that self-talk that's negative, where it's like, oh, I don't belong there, I don't belong there because of this, right? And one thing about like prison was that I learned a lot of like about myself, but also too like a lot of self-worth, because that's all it is. I mean, when you run the homie program, like it's a lot of pride, but it's gradients of pride, right? Where it can be like very toxic or where it can be like healthy, right? Where it's like I've survived and I've done this, and therefore this is where I'm at with myself, right? And then you have another one where it's like I've never faced myself, but I mask it with all this like false sense of pride and so on and so forth. So it's like you have to be able to be balanced within that process, right? Then the discipline I have, I'm like, I'm very clean, like I try not to be super clean because then I get anal about it where somebody doesn't do shit like I want it, then I get a little aggressive or just express myself in a negative way, but just little things like that, that I've learned to like manage and understand. And a lot of that comes from like that experience, so when I was like going through the motions, like on my 142nd, 143rd day, I get embanked. You know what that is?
No, what's that?
So an embank is basically when you got found suitable, and now it's up to Gavin Newsom to sign.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Gavin Newsom didn't sign, but he didn't reject it either. He shot it back to the state. So then the state creates this committee, this panel where they go over all the mitigating and litigating factors, right? Like, oh, this is so and so. Then they give the DA an opportunity to talk, right? Then they have certain peoples of the community, yada yada. And I was in there, and I wasn't able to tap in, but some family members were. And I did my daily routine, right? I went to work because I used to work in the kitchen, so I was the clerk for the kitchen, you know, so I was managing all these other positions, you know, the counting metal, um, conversating with certain people, you know, making sure that the position that they had was something that they wanted. Because in that kitchen, like, you get a ducking and you just got to work. Yeah. And it's not like you go look for work, you know. So there's fools that half-ass and things like that. And especially if they're another race, you can't talk to them like pretty strong. You have to like figure out who's going to be influential. And like with the blacks, there's so many sections. It's like, who the fuck do I talk to? You know. But eventually, I mean, once you get the rope of it, you kind of figure it out, right? Or if not, you leave it for somebody else that knows what's up. You know. But yeah, at the end of the day, like, I did my routine, right? I went to work, and then I would paint. We did some murals inside the gym. Once at the Solid Dead gym, that's where I was at, you know? I was on C yard. So I'm painting, da-da-da, come back, shower, I go to class. I come back, and I would come back like around 8:30 because lockdown's at 9. So I would come back at 8:30 when all the classes would be done. And as I'm going to my cell, like, my neighbor's like, he's like, fuck yeah, you gone, fool, you gone, right? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, like, my girl just searched you up and you got fucking, you know, you got affirmed. So being affirmed means that in the embark, they stuck to the decision that I'm going home. Okay. You know? So I was like, what the fuck? So I get to my cell and I turn on my tablet because you get tablets in prison. Yeah. So I turn on my tablet and I remember just reading all these messages, you know, congratulations. Oh my God, you're coming home. Oh, like, I love you, you know, all these things, right? And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm coming home, you know? Yeah. So I just started giving out all my shit, you know. The following 10 days, I was just giving out all my shit, like my art materials, my TV, you know. I left a lot of things for like the homies too, but I was just like, pay it forward, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you could use this, you know, and I got nothing to take, you know. I probably took like maybe like some paint materials, like maybe like 3 or 4 cans like that I had, some brushes, and like two canvases because I wasn't sure where I was going. Yeah. You know, because they're like, oh, you're going to go to a transitional home in Santana. Okay. You know, and I was like, all right, cool, I'm going back home. But that means I also have beef back at home, you know, so I have to be aware. Yeah. And then I didn't want to like look at it like that, but you get a lot of anxiety because when you're in there, even though it's a bubble, you feel a little bit of like comfortability. Yeah, because you're used to it. Yeah, you're kind of like, okay, cool. Like, I know who's around me, who's what, who my neighbors are, who I'm gonna kick it with, you know, who's coming in. Like, let's do a background check, right? Like, it just you become aware of like who's with you, right? Coming out here, it's like you don't know who's in that sober living. You know what I'm saying? You don't know who's driving what car, like just so much, right? That you're used to processing information, and then when you don't have all that information, you get like overwhelmed. You know, you get anxiety, you get fucking like, oh well, what the fuck is this one? Right? Like, and then it gets dark, and then my first time walking out, like in the dark on the street, I was like looking at all the lights, the cars, like I was just paranoid. Like, first week and a half was like that, you know, getting on the bus, you know, a lot of anxiety, people touching me. I wasn't used to being touched. You know, I wasn't used to like, you know, somebody bumping into me and being like, oh, well, get the fuck out of the way. Like, nothing like that, you know, because in prison, like, it's a high etiquette. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? People bump into you, they're like, hey, excuse me, G. Like, oh, you know, right behind you. Right? Like, out here on the streets, it's not like that. People right step behind your shoes. Yeah, you know, nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, so I was getting triggered constantly, right? But just little moments like that of it, the experience of like transitioning, right? I remember waking up on my bed for the first time and I was like, damn, I'm in an actual bed. Yeah. Not on a little rug, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that. And then I had a roomie, but my roomie was like, he would leave early, so I wouldn't see him when I would wake up, you know? At that time, I was waking up like at 5, and he'll probably leave like at 4:30. You were able to eat whatever you wanted when you got out? So what was your first meal? So my first meal was Denny's. Denny's? Yeah. I got picked up by ARC. ARC hooked me with the Ride Home program that they have. Yeah. So I got picked up, and then I went to Denny's, and then the whole drive was like 7 hours. Then I went to Walmart. They got me like some hygiene. I got a little cell phone, like one of those prepaid ones.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I got that, and then I contacted just some people, like immediate people that I knew. Like, hey, this is my number. I was like very private. Like when I first got out,
Yeah.
I didn't want none of the anybody kind of knowing that I was out.
Yeah.
Even though my socials was active, I wasn't posting pictures of
Yeah.
how I look with my hair.
Yeah.
Like all these scenes was like the old pictures.
Yeah.
And then eventually I started like tapping into it. I got to meet some people, so on and so forth. I got myself a sponsor too, started attending NAAA meetings. I went to DRC programming, which was like Monday through Friday. I did Yellowstone, which was like on the weekends, on Wednesdays, the outpatient one. And then I did a couple other programs, got myself a sponsor, like I said. And then, yeah, I've just been working at it, little by little. But I mean, throughout that whole journey, like sobriety's been like the reason why I got my freedom back. It's been like one of the best decisions that I've made. And even though sometimes it feels stagnant, because it doesn't come with like a thrill, it doesn't come with like the euphoric times of like, yeah, we're partying and fuck yeah, or like, and I'm not even gonna like, say it like that, but it's just like when you're constantly being promiscuous, like there's a thrill to that, right? Like, oh, like I'm getting away with this, like, oh, I'm doing this. And it's like, I mean, for me, sobriety kind of gave me that stability of like being able to be like loyal and faithful and in a sense committed, right? Because I'm committed to my sobriety.
Yeah.
So my sobriety starts with the work, it starts with like really looking into myself, looking at everything around me, looking at what I can do to be better. Even though it's not consistent as I used to, because I don't have much of the time that I used to when I was in prison, but I still do it at least once or twice a week, that maintenance that's necessary, but finding those time blocks, sometimes it's difficult, because it's like out here, life is on the go.
Yeah.
You got to go to school, you got to go to work, you got to go be a parent, you got to go be a boyfriend, you got to go do this. So finding that time is like where I embrace it, where I really do my reflections. Then I do have a sponsor, so I was like running back with them. And sometimes I'm wrong,
Yeah. 100%.
Sometimes I'm wrong where it's just my perspective, right? My feelings, my beliefs, and it's like that's not how it is. Because there's a whole different, perspective behind this, and it's like, all right, well, I'll do some more work.
So what is Herbert up to today? So what are you doing now? And I know you're in college, you know what I mean? And so what other things you got going on?
So I go to Cal State Fullerton. My major is communications. My emphasis or concentration is like advertisement. That's what I do for, school. I work full time too. I work for Project Kinship, Project Rebound. So, under Project Rebound, I've been, blessed with the opportunity to go into like, Gilbert High, Catella High, Anaheim High, and other places, just to kind of share the story, the insight, and like the contrast, of like decision making when you're younger to when you're older, and when you're like in prison, like the emphasis of prison is like rehabilitation, right? And that comes with education, that comes with picking up a book, with knowing your capacity and sharing that message, with the youth that they can actually embrace their capacity now instead of having to go through all of that. I had the also the privilege to talk to like the Santa Ana High School like football team.
Oh man.
Not all of them, but a few, like a good handful. And kind of shared about those emotions that we don't tend to express as men, right? Like there's a lot of things that when I was growing up that now that I know that were so detrimental to like my growth, right? My emotional growth, my relationships, my interpersonal relationships, just because of like how you want to be represented as a man, right? Like I want to be looked upon like this, so therefore I can't speak of this, or I can't show this, or I can't feel this, right? And all that is a barrier. All that robs you from like joy, from connections, right? From even feeling safe, right? Like those are things that now I'm aware of, that sometimes they come out of like reactions, right?
Yeah.
It's like a response that's like always the go-to, like, oh, I feel like this. But then like once you like cool off and kind of think about it, you're like, okay, it's not that serious. It's just me.
Yeah.
Right. So and just things like that, like bringing that awareness. I also do murals, I'm an artist, so I paint. I do commission paint too, like, different people who reach out, whether it be pictures of their loved ones, of dogs,
So you do portraits and stuff too?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
awesome,
yeah, I'm pretty
man.
decent. Like I'm not like the best, but I'm pretty decent. You know, I want to transition into oils and be like completely badass with oils. I think that's like when I'll retire like all my other side hustles and jobs. You know, I'll be able to do big images on, more expensive. You know. But nonetheless, like that's what I do now. I also have a side business, you know, which is Chapatito, Chocolate
I see
Candies.
that, man.
Yeah, it's going pretty good. I mean, I have online sales. I do a little bit of promo on it, advertisement. I do deliveries. I basically,
I seen that one dude that Kinks made.
Oh yeah.
A commercial for you.
Yeah. He just posted one up.
Yeah, that was pretty tight. Huh?
Yeah, that's the boy. I mean, I have a couple things coming. It's just like slowly but surely, you know what I'm saying, trying to work on it. You know, right now I do have some. It's not legalities, you know, but it's more kind of like I'm trying to get one of the licenses that are required for me to sell like wholesale throughout the state.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's already kind of like in the process. It's just I'm waiting on it. After that, I should be able to tap into like a lot of different stores.
That's awesome.
You know, but that also would mean like I would need a warehouse, packaging. So I'm trying to find out the logistics of it, right? Of what it's really going to look like, and what are the profits within a year or two, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I'm kind of moving on up on that, you know. And then, like I said, I mean, I'm proud of myself, like the whole development of like being a fuck up, you know, and to being where I'm at, you know, chasing like that freedom, you know what I'm saying? Like that's one thing that I feel like a lot of people take for granted, especially like when I talk to the youth. Like they glorify this whole like drug addiction because some people look cool using, you know, partying, you know, because it's all over social media, you know, people partying or fighting and, you know, all these likes and all these clicks, and it distorts the way that certain people view life, like what a healthy life looks like, you know. And it's that little window. It's like I've seen some videos too where it's like people look at this little window of like, oh, life is so exciting, you know, they got all this figured out, yada yada, but it's like in the back end that's not really like everybody's life. You know, and if it's even like part of life, it's just a part of life. It's not the whole life.
100%.
You know, so it's very distorted, and it makes people get into that comparison stage, right? Like, oh, I'm here and I want to be there, right? But one thing that I've learned about like brushing elbows with certain people that are like not just successful, but kind of have everything they need and want. It's like once you get to that stage, like the happiness is all upon yourself. Like whether you feel happy when you get there or not, that's all on you. You know, because you can be broke as fuck, not having shit, and be happy as fuck. Content with the things that you are like value, you know what I'm saying, that you value in your life. And you're like, I value my freedom, you know, I value sobriety, I value like my family members, I value, you know, just the smiles or the friendships that I have. Like that's enough for you to be content, you know. But there's other people that are like, oh well, I don't have the best car, I don't have this, I don't have that. So there's always that what if, you know, and that robs you from your happiness, you know. I mean, like I said, for me, like my life right now is like very like well rounded, and I feel blessed about it. You know, and because of that, you know, I tend to like always try to build more on it. You know, cultivate it in a sense. You know, because before I wouldn't cultivate no relationships. You know, I wouldn't cultivate like anything that was long term. It was always immediate. You know,
because instant gratification.
Yeah, because when you're a drug addict, you know, when you're an alcoholic, you want things now. You know, you want to chase that high now. You want to chase that buzz now. You know, and you sabotage every area of your life like that. Like now, you know, and it's like, what do you get out of it now? You know, because in the later, like, but that's that mindset though. You know, because I feel like I was conditioned that when you're fucking up, people tell you don't make it over 25. You know, you're going to die or go to prison, you know? So you're like, now, because eventually I'm end up going to prison, right? So you're already like, in a sense, going that way, but you might as well get it while you can, right? And that's a very distorted mindset, but that's a drug addict mindset. You know, so I feel now like for me, like I take my time, I do things right. I slow down if I need to, you know, discern what's around me, you know, and if I could bring awareness, you know, pay it forward. Or I got a sponsee. Well, he's a sponsee, but nonetheless, like we've been working on things, right? Trying to get it together because there's that reluctance that I once had. You know what I'm saying? Like where it's like, nah, I'm not gonna open up, I'm not gonna say this. Like eventually I'll get to it when I feel comfortable, and I respect that process, you know, because when that bond is made, the growth is faster, but it takes time. You know, you can't push somebody or force something to happen because it just won't happen as it's supposed to, you know. So that's kind of my journey out here too. I'm taking my time and letting it kind of just simmer in, and when the time is appropriate, then I'll step in, and when not, then I'll step out. Yeah.
So, what message do you have for any viewer out there that's struggling with addiction, incarceration, or hopeless out there? What kind of message or kind of suggestion would you have for them if they needed some encouragement?
So I would say that, you're not alone. There's many that been through the path or are going through what you're going through. Um, what you need to do is ask for help. And I say need, because when we're going through things like that, when we're going through the stages of like hopelessness, that life isn't bright, that everything's pretty shitty. Like there's always somebody that can bring us out of that. We're just having the issue of not asking for help or not being willing to, and as soon as you start becoming like willing to, things change, perspective changes, and it's not going to happen overnight. So I'm not going to guarantee you like a overnight, change of story. But once you start doing the process, you do the work, you give it a year, you give it two, you give it three, like everything around you changes. Yourself, your friends, your life, the way that you address problems, the way that you deal with problems. Even the problems that you have are not even as intense as they are the ones you have now. And one of the things that I've learned about drugs is that they always create problems. Always going to create a problem, whether it be the way you look at things, the way that you feel about things, the way that you want to resolve things. It either be half-assed or not at all. There is no true assertiveness when you're in that mindset. Um, and like I said, I mean, sobriety, it doesn't happen overnight. It didn't happen for me overnight either. But there's always somebody willing to help, most definitely in NA groups, AA groups. You got counselors at high schools. I don't know if, anybody underage, but there's high school counselors. There's
College counselors.
Yeah, there's drug counselors. There's a project, kinship. There's like different programs, for the youth. I know there's another one that's like neutral ground. You have different programs, that are willing to, just help you out through whatever it is that you're going through. And there's other people who've been there before, so it's like it's not impossible. So don't think of it as like, oh, it's impossible, I can't do it. Because that I can't do it mindset is what's holding you back.
And just remember that life still happens regardless if you're clean or not. You know what I mean? It's how you react to it. And it's obtainable to get your life back on track, and change is possible. And just want to let you know that fools get clean too.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.